E-bikes have become hugely popular, but depending on who you ask, they're a convenience or a major nuisance. A UCSF study last year found the number of e-bike injuries across the country essentially doubled every year from 2017 to 2022.
New study led by a trauma surgeon here at Children's Hospital shows e-bike accidents are on the rise, up over 300% in a 4-year period. And many of those accidents are ending with kids in the hospital being treated for traumatic injuries.
The e-bike revolution is happening quickly, and if you want to know how quickly, all you have to do is take a visit to your local middle school.
E-bikes are amazing. They really are. But these are not e-bikes. These are not e-bikes. These are electric motorcycles, and there is a difference.
It wasn't long ago that e-bikes just helped you pedal. Now they've become full-fledged motorcycles, and lawmakers are racing to catch up to the technology.
It turns out many of them are illegal and shouldn't be on our streets. Police have had enough, and the crackdown has begun.
The crackdown has extended into schools. The bike unit recently attended this college in Sydney's eastern suburbs and inspected every bike in the racks and found 99% of the e-bikes were illegal.
Deputies say a kid on an e-bike decided to try and get away from them and nearly crashed into a fence.
The Orange County Police Department releasing new video of an officer chasing a teen on an e-bike.
Emergency room visits for children and teenagers have more than quadrupled. Think about that, quadrupled in just 3 years. And the reason? E-bikes.
They're weaving through traffic, running stop signs, and trying to outrun police. These videos recorded by Corona Police are part of what officers say is a growing problem involving young riders on e-bikes and e-motorcycles. And the danger doesn't end when the chase is over.
As the driver makes the left turn onto Royal, an electric dirt bike speeds into the intersection and slams into that car, sending the 13-year-old rider airborne. He landed hard on the road. Neighbors rushed to help, but that teenager died of his injuries at Mass General in Boston.
Garden Grove police say just before 10 p.m., the 13-year-old boy was riding 35 miles per hour on a motorbike, often called an e-motorcycle, when he ran into the center median and was ejected from the bike.
14-year-old is dead after an e-bike crash.
County data shows emergency room visits involving children and teens on e-bikes more than doubled over the past 2 years. While an e-bike crash can cause serious injury, the higher speeds and greater weight of some e-bikes, especially those that have been modified, and e-motorcycles, can make those crashes even more severe.
The kids are going to die if you don't give them education. I can't tell you how many first responders we've talked to that have told us they've done CPR on minors more in the last 3 years than they have in their entire careers because of these e-bikes.
Tonight, it's a growing problem in this town. Police say they've had 3 e-bike crashes in just the past 2 days, including a teen boy who was hit in this intersection, but he ended up facing charges.
Nightmare. This is honestly the worst thing that I think any parent could go through.
Law enforcement across the state are cracking down on reckless driving of non-street legal electric vehicles. Now, some progress.
The Douglas County Sheriff's Office has put out numerous educational posts on social media and been canvassing the community proactively and when they receive complaints.
It's a hobby that's gaining in popularity.
We're seeing them pretty much everywhere. Main roads, we see them on highways, city streets.
But often it creates dangerous situations on roads all across the county.
Kids have been seriously hurt because they're out riding these kinds of vehicles where they're not supposed to be.
If you're driving an e-motorcycle, deputies say those aren't street or sidewalk legal. Since May 1st of this year, the Douglas County Sheriff's Office has received 232 complaints specifically about electric motorcycles.
The Douglas County adding regulations surrounding these electric dirt bikes. And tonight, an emergency ordinance was passed that creates harsher penalties, safety rules, and minimum fines for certain violations.
So it's effective immediately as county leaders report a rise in teens riding e-motos at dangerously high speeds.
Did the emergency ordinance that just passed in Douglas County actually fix the problem? Or is this like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet? Recently, the Douglas County Sheriff approached the county commissioners here in Douglas County looking for an emergency ordinance to be passed around the e-moto situation. They
presented to them that E-Motos should be classified as OHVs, they also made parents liable in the situation of an underage child riding one. Fury is not defending wheelies in traffic, fleeing police, or giving kids machines in which parents don't understand.
And right now, the state law under the 42 code that usually deals with that, it really has not kept up to standard with these new vehicles. And when I say these new vehicles, we're talking about off-highway vehicles.
Don't get me wrong. Kids going 70 miles an hour down the street on an E-Moto is something that the community needs to be involved with because it's not safe, and I'm not trying to say it is. But what I am trying to say is that Class 1, 2, and 3 e-bike are not the same as E-Moto, which is not the same as a motorcycle, which is not the same as an OHV. So trying to take E-Motos and dump them into an OHV bucket just because it's convenient to make them illegal is really overlooking the main problem. We're leaving revenue on the table, we're leaving safety concerns for the community in which they can operate these things, and I think we're overlooking the long-term goal of saying there should be a path for OHVs, or off-highway vehicles in general, to have a legal path to be operated on the road safely. These regulations and the revenue that can drive them would also be a benefit to the community outside just the safety concerns. So, let's define it and let's see how we can separate these into the appropriate buckets. This is why the conversation needs to take place around not just the safety, but fines, helmets, parents, and machine types.
So an example of one of those Sarons, 0 to 35 miles an hour in 2.1 seconds. That's a stock. That's extremely fast, and if you are young and you don't have that capability, there's high probability you're getting hurt or hurting somebody else. We're trying to prevent that.
There are plenty of resources out there, and especially recently with Town of Castle Rock as well as the Sheriff's Department have done a number of videos defining the classes of e-bikes. Noticed they are solely focusing on the classes of e-bikes, whether it's a class 1, 2, or 3, which has to do with the wattages and the functional pedals. The E-Motos, however, are what they're saying are completely illegal no matter what the situation. That's where we come in. That's where the definitions come in, and that's the clarity that we're seeking. I'm not here to pretend that these complaints are made up, and I know the sheriff is taking real calls on a daily basis. But the answer still has to sort the machines correctly. I think a lot of fear is being driven from the media, shocker, that class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes are being roped into the E-Motos, which is the reason why E-Motos are now illegal. However, I'm not disagreeing with the fact that E-Motos need regulations. What I am disagreeing with the fact is they're being roped into OHVs. And I don't think that's fair to classify an OHV as an unsafe 70 mile per hour kid going down the road, which it's capable of doing, but I also have a lot of other protective equipment surrounding it. That therein lays the problem. The safety concerns, the protection equipment needed, the ages, regulations, licensing. Let's define it for real. Let's not just make it up because it's a convenient bucket to put it in. Let's actually see what we're looking at and how we can specifically drive the safety concerns to solutions.
So under this ordinance, we do have the ability to charge a parent if they knowingly allow a teen to ride one of these prohibited items in violation of this ordinance.
So $1,000 fine, E-Moto being impounded, and the parents taking the blame are all ways to solve the safety concern and probably address the want or desire for these kids or parents to be riding them around. But in doing so, they've made E-Motos the illegal UTV of the world, and that classification is wrong. The fines can be made up with revenue with a proper way of legally driving these on the road. They're trying to catch illegal E-Motos by throwing them in the same bucket as OHVs, which catches side-by-sides. That's like throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
We have to be careful not to throw the baby out with the bathwater and not slice bread with an axe, but just be really precise legally with all of this. So we'll rely on smart attorneys to help us with this.
Some food for thought are there are other counties in Colorado that have legalized UTV use on city roads. If we could take a look at their examples that they've set for us and how they're operating in a safe manner, then I think that is the road to follow. Thinking an E-Moto is the same thing as a UTV is ridiculous. The fact that I have a roll cage, 5-point harnesses, turn signal kits, horns, windshields, mirrors, things that motor vehicles are regulated to have on the roads, all of those are going to come with it. So I understand that E-Motos shouldn't be allowed, but let's define what it would take for them to be. Because I can take a dirt bike and make it street legal, why can't I an e-moto?
Low-powered scooters, we talked about this. That's basically, there has to be a driver's license. It has to be insurance and registered. And again, these are only allowed on the roadway. So what's important to focus on low-powered scooters, or it's like, what's the big deal? It's low-powered scooter. Low-powered scooters in this category will do 50 miles an hour. So can you imagine a 50-mile-an-hour scooter, low-powered scooter, again, I didn't pick the definition, on a sidewalk, on a trail. These are ones that are going to get people hurt. They're meant for the roadway. They have safety equipment. They are required to have a driver's license, registration, and insurance.
Let me preface by saying I am not a lawyer, but if there are any attorneys out there or Douglas County Sheriff personnel that want to chime in with what I might be missing, please feel free, like and subscribe, or come reach us out. I want to read to you a definition that I came across in some research. A person who drives a motor vehicle, bicycle, electrical assisted bicycle, electric scooter, or low-powered scooter in a careless and imprudent manner without due regard for the width, grade, curves, corners, traffic, and use of the streets and highways and all other attendant circumstances is guilty of careless driving. Let's let that sink in because it kind of sounds like the problem we're trying to fix. However, let me read another definition for you, one of which that defines a motor vehicle. A motor vehicle is means of any self-propelled vehicle that is designed primarily for travel on the public highways and that is generally and commonly used to transport persons and property over the public highways, a low-speed electric vehicle, or an autocycle, except that the term does not include electrical assisted bicycles, electric scooters, low-powered scooters, except as provided in subsection 58B of this section, wheelchairs, or vehicles moved solely by human power. Section B includes a low-power scooter for purposes of sections of law that we're going to discuss in just a minute, but the kicker does not include a farm tractor or an off-highway vehicle, except for the purposes of offenses described in a few sections. Those sections are for vehicular manslaughter, reckless driving, and DUI. So, like I said, I'm not a lawyer, but something doesn't add up. Because even on the Douglas County Sheriff website, it's saying that careless driving could be a violation to driving an e-moto on the streets. But an e-moto is not considered a motor vehicle, which is the prerequisite for careless driving. So can you get careless driving? Because it seems to me like they just took that off the table, which should be the one offense that we're going after to solve the safety concerns that started this whole thing in the first place.
There was a charging of that individual, and we found out through that charging that there was a loophole where the state law does not recognize an OHV under careless driving. That is currently the state.
Like I said, if there's an attorney out there or a Douglas County Sheriff that can help me clarify what's what, I'd love to know. But this in turn gives me the basis of the argument that definitions need to be resolved and clearly defined across all those buckets, because right now it's purely convoluted. When the Douglas County approached the commissioners, what they were looking for was more fines or heavier fines on these e-motos. But taking careless driving out of the mix reduces the fines that you had at your disposal to begin with, plus that also accrued jail time. We're in one of the richest counties in the Colorado, if not the United States. Make that make sense. Let me ask the question that is on all of our minds. Why not classify an e-moto as the motorcycle it is? Because if you think about it, it not only brings careless driving back into play, but also endorsements, licenses, insurance, registrations, and everything else that encompasses that we have on our everyday motor vehicles. I drive a motorcycle. I have to have a motorcycle endorsement in order to do so, in order to legally drive that on the streets. So isn't that what you're cracking down on to begin with? It's not like you're going to charge the richest county in Colorado $750 more is going to get you anywhere, because in the end, if you classify it as a motorcycle, you could gain far more than that in proper fees, let alone points on your license and the 10 to 90 days jail time. Now let's take it a step further. While sticking to the context of definitions and what defines what and what buckets they should be put in, let's logically answer the question, why can't we have UTVs legally driving down the road? If we had the definitions in place to require, say, an e-moto following a motorcycle regulation, then why couldn't we make the regulations for a UTV having street legal kits, horns, hazards, windshields, mirrors, helmets, goggles, whatever those stipulations may be, having those defined of how to legally operate on the city streets, and then gaining the revenue streams of registrations and insurance and things of that nature could not only help push the economy side of it, but it continues making the right definitions for the right machines in the right places, used at the right times.
The last thing I'd like to put out here real quick, normally these ordinances, when we come to the commissioners, we ask, or as part of the ordinance, there is a 30-day moratorium where it is passed by adoption and 30 days goes by and then it becomes an active ordinance. We are requesting of the commissioners, because of the concerns we have for public safety, that that's waived today on an emergency ordinance, and upon vote today, that it becomes active immediately.
With that, any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
And I vote aye as well. That motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Sheriff. Thank you to your whole team.
A big ordinance was passed separating e-bikes from e-motos. And I completely 100% agree with the sheriff and the county commissioner's decision on correcting this problem. I just feel like we're doing it in the wrong manner. I feel like the definitions need defined more clearly. I believe that certain machines like e-motos should be considered like motorcycles that they are, and I think that UTVs should be looked at completely separately from the off-highway vehicles that were illegal to begin with, and have a legal path for putting those on the street, whether I want to go get gas or get some ice cream with my kids. So my challenge to any of you watching this is, if you're an attorney or if you're part of Douglas County Commissioners or the Douglas County Sheriff, please reach out. I would love to have a conversation with you, whether on camera or not, just to help define these definitions that we're fighting for. And if you're not part of those, no worries, we can still use your help. Please go online, click the link below, and sign our petition. We're doing a digital petition for now to approach Douglas County, but I hope this grows into something that we can approach the state later on, and defining this on a state level, not just Douglas County. Until then, ride safe, ride strong, ride Fury.